interwebs, and welcome to the final installment of reading my terrible fanfiction.
Yay, it's over.
We have 3 chapters left,
Very
and
short chapters.
about 3 pages within those 3 chapters. Maybe 4. So we're just gonna barrel through it.
Barrels.
We're almost done.
Like the hobbits and... No, the dwarves.
The dwarves.
And the hobbit.
And the
oh,
Hobbit.
it's confusing.
All these Tolkien properties, it's fine.
Those tokens.
So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up.
What are you doing?
Thumbs it up. It's very helpful and it makes me feel validated. I'll
thumb it up for you.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. I'll put a link in this corner to the playlist of all of the other videos so that you can get caught up or just rewatch it since this is the last one.
Why would you want to rewatch it? Why would you want?
You know, some people might actually
Just
think we're
suffer.
entertaining. They just left the house. And you know, that's the midpoint in the book.
Leaving
Is
Rivendell?
living Rivendell.
You're just like...
But here, we're about to
You
hit
kind
the
of combined
second pillar.
Rivendell and...
Yeah, a little bit. Let's get this over with. Alright, chapter 12. Horns Across the Plains.
Already we're laughing at it. Oh boy, what a great friggin', oh gosh.
Lillian refused to get on the pony, but instead lead it. The storm that the company had gotten caught in had subsided to a light snowfall, but the storm was even deeper than before, almost up to Lillian's waist. A small ray of sunlight broke its way through the clouds and hit the stone, making it sparkle with blinding light. Lillian, now that the storm was over and she wasn't being possessed, realized how beautiful it all was, with icicles hanging from trees, catching the sunlight that slipped through the clouds, and the new unblemished snow ahead of them was perfect and sparkling. Are you okay?
She wasn't being possessed. Oh my god, the fact that that's like a sentence that exists in this, that you had to put in to explain, like, why? Why? I hate her so much. Ugh, your main character is so unlikable.
I know.
All of your characters are unlikable.
Hey!
Even the hot. Oh, maybe.
No, what about Macon?
Hard pass.
Maglet seemed to know the forest better than the back of his own hand. He led the company winding through the forest,
That's a
weaving
dumb-
in and out
wait.
of trees.
That's so dumb. No one knows the back of your hand.
Yeah, I do.
I don't.
It got lighter as they went along, and all of a sudden, Lillian saw the end of the forest. Never had a sight been more welcoming. Lillian breathed a sigh of relief. It took them about 10 more minutes to get out of the forest, but when they did, the snow on the ground stopped abruptly. The air became warmer, and the clouds disappeared from the sky. The company was now looking across a large plain, completely flat with some trees here and there. Lillian could see more clouds that seemed to be tinged with red in the distance, and it suddenly hit Lillian that that place was their goal. She shivered, even though they were out of the woods. She did not like where this adventure was going.
I don't either. I don't like any of this.
The company set up camp near a large tree, hoping it would shade them from any enemies. Lillian was feeling weak again, so she sat and watched as everyone scurried around busily. Macon found that this was the perfect time to treat Lillian with the special liquid Shalom had given them. He opened up a small hole in Lillian's dress right where the wound was and carefully dripped 2 drops of the liquid into Lillian's wound. To Lillian's surprise, the liquid was cold, but it felt good and made her feel relaxed. Then she had an idea to make things easier. She borrowed a jealous needle and thread and took one of the buttons she had taken with her and sewed it into the dress where the hole was. Then she made a buttonhole and slid the button through it. There, she said, that will make things much easier. That's redundant. After a quick look around, Maglet came and made an announcement.
Now you can open up my dress whenever you want.
Yikes.
That's where this is going. Or is this just the cruel truth right now, Grace?
Starting tomorrow, we're going to have to travel at night, he said. Daytime, we will be too vulnerable. It will be harder, and that's for sure, he added, looking at the hobbits' faces. But believe me, it will be for the best. Dinner was quick. Lillian munched on a small square of lemons while hugging her knees to her chest. The liquid in her wound seemed to have side effects, and there was a sharp, stabbing pain that was steadily growing. In a few moments, it felt like a sword stabbing her. Suddenly, Shalom's voice popped into her head, saying, Whenever there is a blade like the one you were stabbed with nearby, you will feel it in your wound.
Oh, shoot.
Lillian pulled Sting out of its sheath and gasped, both in pain and fear. Sting was glowing blue.
Oh my gosh.
That was really fast.
People.
This is the first day. Immaculate, Lillian cried before the stabbing pain hit her in the chest, making her gasp again. She tried to stand up but felt the stab again, knocking her to the down.
I get knocked to the down.
Knocking her to the down.
Let's sing our favorite song. Lillian is the most useless character. Why is she the main character? She's useless. Sure, Frodo might have been useless, but he still did stuff and was likable. She's just the worst. She's got long hair and that's her only character trait.
No more coffee beans for you. Knocking her to the down, but someone caught her before she hit the ground.
It was me.
Lillian looked up, expecting to see Mocklet holding her, but to her surprise it was Margin. Before she had time to contemplate this, the call of a horn filled her ears. It sounded ominous, ringing across the plain, making it sound louder than it actually was. Over the noise, she heard Mocklet shout, "Orcs!" And then there were the sounds of swords unsheathing. Earlier she thought that's what they were. Other sounds were filling her mind, the head orc speaking in a black language. His laughter as Lillian felt the stabbing pain in her chest again. Shalom's voice saying something inaudible, someone crying, and a different voice that was all too familiar, the voice in her dreams. Lillian was slipping in and out of consciousness. Margin's voice calling her name sounded miles and miles away. Fireworks were bursting in front of her eyes, slowly turning to black.
Wow.
Margin felt Lillian go limp in his arms. He laid her down gently and took up Sting, which was glowing bright blue, and turned to where Mocklet was standing, an arrow cocked in his crossbow, staring out across the plain, his eyes straining for something. "She's out cold," Margin called, saying the words made him feel cold. "Shut up." "Hide her," Elot shouted. He pointed his staff at Lillian, and suddenly a bush appeared out of nowhere and hid Lillian completely. Then he tapped his hand and suddenly a sword appeared in it. He stood at the ready, not looking like the old man he was. An inspired Margin, he tossed Sting to Macon and drew his own sword. Agella had her knife at the ready, and they all watched as what looked like an entire army of orcs came into view, a black mob running at a speed only imaginable. Margin gripped his sword tighter and felt nervous sweat running down his brow. What if he died? He was only 42, really too young to die.
Oh, 42.
But then Margin thought of Lillian, her face, her smile, the way she walked, and the way she spoke. New determination filled Margin, and he thought, if I die today, it will be for her.
Jeez, man,
and he watched as Mocklet let loose his first arrow.
You're like, what if Sam and Frodo were a thing, though? Which I feel like a lot of people have thought about.
I don't remember what this chapter is, but it's interesting. Okay, we're on chapter 13. Okay. It's kind of exciting. I'm kind of feeling amped. I mean, it's happening way too soon, but it's still cool. Chapter 13, The Battle of the Plains. How is it a battle? There's only 5 of them, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, because Lillian's asleep. Agella's hands felt cold as she gripped her knife tighter, watching as Mocklet's arrow sunk into the chest of one of the orcs at the front of the mob. The orc fell forward, clutching the arrow. The entire orc army stopped dead, smiling as they looked at their dead comrade. That was their mistake. With a cry, Elot waved his... That was their mistake. With a cry, Elot waved his staff around in the air, bathing the company in green light. Then he pointed the staff at the orcs as green electricity shot out of it. The front line of the mob fell sparkling with the green lightning. Agella was breathing heavily, but she didn't notice it as the army advanced. She couldn't hear anything but her heart beating loudly in her ears as the orcs came roaring toward the company. Agella closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "For Lillian." Then she bit her lip and raised her knife over her head as the mob of orcs finally reached them.
I feel like no one should care about this character. Like, why? Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, Lillian's so great or whatever. How? When? Did I miss something?
This is why having some character building at the beginning of the story might have been useful.
Might have gone.
Margin swung his sword with more ferocity than he thought was possible for him. The sword cut through orc after orc, sometimes taking just a limb, but most of the time taking a life, if that is what the orc's existence could be called. Dang, the 14-year-old Grace.
Damn.
That's pretty deep. Margin felt a burning pain in the back of his leg, but he didn't care. As he fought, he saw Maklet, his normally cheerful face deadly serious, almost scary, as fought through the mob. He only used the crossbow for shooting arrows, but for actual combat, crushing the orcs' skulls with it. He not only used the crossbow for shooting arrows, but for actual combat, crushing the orcs' skulls with it. The sentence still doesn't make sense. He was also using his arrows as knives, sticking them in various places in orcs, and then using the same arrow and his crossbow to finish it off. Elot was fighting with a ferocity that had to be unhealthy for him at his age, swinging his sword with amazing precision and skill, and every once in a while he waved his staff above his head and shooting green lightning out of it, destroying 10 orcs at a time. Margin could barely tell what Agella was moving. Margin could barely tell what Agella was doing. She was moving so fast. 1 second she was pulling her knife out of an orc, the next it was in the head of another. She was also using her body as a weapon, and her hands were stained black with orc blood. Seeing Macon fight was scary. Not only did he not really have a weapon, he wasn't really a fighter. What are you talking about? Whoops, that was a continuity error.
Why? Didn't they say did he say he was good?
No, Margin tossed Sting to Macon. And now
he's like, no, I can't do it.
Macon really only helped to kill the orcs, wounding them with his medicine knife or smashing them with his bag. He should have Sting. Come on, Grace. What are you doing? Margin kept close behind his brother, killing the orcs that Macon wounded. Suddenly, Margin saw something out of the corner of his eye. An orc was near the bush that Lillian was behind. Fear crossed through Margin.
Yeah.
With a cry, he ran toward the orc, and with one swish of his sword, the orc's head hit the ground. Margin stared at the head. Its eyes were still open, staring back at him. Suddenly, Margin saw black spots in front of his eyes, and he staggered, falling to his hands and knees. With horror, he realized what was happening around him, what he had done. Dizziness accompanied the spots in front of his eyes. He was a simple hobbit from the Shire. What was he doing killing?
Oh, well, I don't know. I guess
Margin turned his face towards Lillian, who was still unconscious, her face peaceful, beautiful. Margin remembered the day that he first met Lillian, trying to find a job. When he first set eyes on her, Margin thought he was dreaming. Ever since then, he would die for Lillian.
That's unhealthy.
Simp! Margin looked at his sword lying on the ground near the body of the decapitated orc. It was black with the orc's blood, still wet and shining in the sunlight peering through the clouds overhead. He looked at the mob, seeing his friends and family fighting to protect the hobbit who was unconscious beside him and the tiny piece of jewelry around her neck. The ring. Why hadn't he thought of it before? He could use the ring to turn himself into an orc and teleport around. The battle would be over in seconds. The idea consumed him, and he reached for the ring. Then he stopped, and horror flooded him. What was he doing? It was not his to take. Lillian had found it, and it was hers to keep, even if it would make the battle easier. Margin dropped his hand and landed on the hilt of his sword. His great-great-grandfather had found it while exploring caves when he was in his youth. Since then, the sword had been passed down through the family, coming to Margin, since Macon really wasn't a fighter. Margin grasped the sword and lifted it, standing up as he did. He pressed the hilt to his forehead and looked at Lillian. Then he took a deep breath and started to run toward the battle. But he felt someone grab his ankle, and he tripped, the breath getting knocked out of him. He turned to see who had grabbed him and gasped when he saw it was... End of chapter.
Me.
Okay. I gotta preface this last chapter. It's only a page long. I am not proud of what is written in this chapter. It is quite possibly the worst thing that I've ever written.
Understand that.
I highly regret it. I don't know what was going through my mind. I really hate it. So I'm going to try to get through it, but I might have to stop and take a couple deep breaths.
Don't mind this.
Rick, I don't want to read this.
Do you want me to do it?
No.
I'll do it.
No, I'm going to do it. I can do
I'll
it.
do it.
I can do it. No, I can do it.
I'll do it. It'll be funny.
I've got it. I've got it. I don't want to.
I I will do it. Man, gosh, hello.
It's so bad. No, this is my demon. This is what I have to put to rest. I'm gonna burn this after I'm done.
Do it. I'll be there.
God. Chapter 14, Lillian's Dream.
Oh.
I hate this so much.
A dream.
After Lillian blacked out, she had a strange dream, not like the ones she had in the winter woods, but different. She saw two figures blurry at first, then slowly they cleared. Lillian saw that one of them was much younger than the other, and yet they both looked vaguely familiar. Then the younger Then the younger one spoke. No. Lillian, we finally meet you at last, he said, smiling. Lillian was confused. Who are you, and how do you know my name? She asked. The older one spoke. Lillian, we are your ancestors, he said.
No!
Lillian gasped and realized why they looked familiar.
No, you didn't.
They were Bilbo and Frodo Baggins.
Shoot. This is the stupidest.
I hate this so much. But why are you here? Lillian said. I don't want to read this.
Because Grace decided that this would be great.
Why are you here? Frick this. To warn you, Frodo said. He and Bilbo looked at each other before Frodo continued. You are in great danger with the number of people you're traveling with. You must go on by yourself.
Really? They're telling her to do this?
I know, seriously. I can't, Lillian said. It would be
They're
too hard for me.
We've both done it.
In her dream, she touched the ring underneath her dress. Then take Margin with you, Bilbo said. Lillian was confused. Why Margin? She asked. Frodo smiled. Don't you see, Lillian? He loves you more than anyone who accompanies you now. He would die for you. He's been the most concerned every time something happened to you. And even though he's been in the shadows most of your adventure, he's been with you since the beginning. He wants your love to him more than anyone. Lillian was shocked. Was it true? Did Margin really love her? Then she realized that Bilbo and Frodo were slowly fading away. Go now, said Bilbo. There's no time to waste. Take some food and your medicine and leave. Try only to travel at night. You are Middle-earth's only hope. And then they were gone.
Why? No, she's not. I thought you guys went through this. This is dumb.
Lillian woke up suddenly and first only saw chaos. And her eyesight cleared a little, and she saw Margin starting to run into a black mob. Her dream flooded back to her, and she grabbed his ankle. Margin whirled around and brandished his sword at Lillian, only to see that it was her. Lillian, he gasped.
Lillian?
Lillian wasted no time. Margin, we have to go now, she said urgently. Margin looked confused. Why? Lillian struggled to sit up and saw that the orc army was running away. There are too many people with us. We have to go now. Lillian saw her medicine lying on the ground, still wrapped in a gray cloth. She grabbed it and started pulling lembas bread out of her pony's saddlebags. Margin, still looking confused, did the same. Once she was done, Lillian started to run toward the direction of the mountains, Margin following her. Then, when they were far enough away, Lillian stopped. No. Margin, she said, slightly out of breath. Margin, panting, stopped and turned to Lillian. What is it? He said. Lillian took both of Margin's hands into hers, Frodo's voice ringing in her ear, saying, Don't you see? He loves you. Then, without realizing what she was doing, she kissed Margin on the lips.
Ew.
It wasn't just a quick, thought-out kiss, but an impulsive, unexpected one. They stayed there for the longest time, locked in something magical. If someone walked right up to them and tapped them on the shoulder, they would not have parted. Finally, Lillian pulled away from Margin, but still held his hands. Thank you, she whispered. Then she dropped his hands and started walking again. Margin stood where he was in shock and happiness at what just happened, watching Lillian. No, thank you, he said, even though Lillian was too far away to hear him. Then he walked quickly to catch up to her, and they continued on their journey that was destined for Lillian, the perilous journey to the Fire Mountains.
Oh boy.
To be continued.
Never.
It's on the next page, but no.
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
I wrote about the first 4 chapters of the next book and then dropped it.
Weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You ready for the masterpiece I made for you? You ready? Alright, so I've been thinking very hard about what this feels like, for me. I need to write my name on it. I think this sums it up. I will, Yeah. This is what I drew. Okay, so it's not Oscar the Grouch. It's like his grandson or something. He's been left the legacy or whatever of the trash can. You're so mean. It says, I love trash, but this is the worst. There he is. See, he's got a mustache, so you could tell he's not, you know, that's his one character trait, probably. Yeah, it even says he's not Oscar the Grouch. We've got, on the bottom here, there's, like, news stuff. There's lots of stuff. There's a ring in the middle here. And then everything's on fire.
Yeah, that's basically what this story looks like.
And this is for you. You can keep this forever.
This was the worst. This was the worst idea I've ever had in my entire life. And 14-year-old Grace was an idiot. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I highly regret this.
Yeah, I can diss on 14-year-olds because I'm 15 now.
A lot of love and thought and pre-planning went into this story. And I hate it so much. And 14-year-old Grace would be devastated to know that I hate it so much. But seeing as I can't ever go back and tell her that it's stupid, I guess I've just gotta live with my mistakes.
Your creativeness. No, it's fine. I'm probably gonna like read this stuff.
Do you want to know what was supposed to happen next in the story? So they split up. I'm gonna see if I can do like a Cliff Notes version. So Lillian and Margin develop their relationship. And they get captured by orcs at one point.
Which probably means they just, like, make out a lot since you don't know how to develop a relationship.
Exactly. They get captured by orcs, but Lillian makes the mistake of using the ring to escape, so then they have, like, an even scarier deadline. And then that's, like, basically their entire story in the second book. And then for everybody else... So, Macon and Angela get captured by Shalhoub and meet this Gollum-type character. I think her name is Metis, I don't know why. And Margin actually, like, falls in love with her, and through her discovers that there is, like, a prophecy about Lillian.
Margin?
Yeah, so then...
Margin, who's in love with Lillian.
No, Macon. The other one.
Macon falls in love with her?
Macon falls in love with this... I think her name is
With Gollum?
Yeah.
So then you were like, you know what else would be great?
It wasn't necessarily...
If my Mary-type character fell in love with Gollum, like, that's a ship that came up in your brain.
It's like, she's just like this poor indentured slave servant person that's, like, really beat up because her master is, like... It's more of a Dobby, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, than a Gollum. Okay. But so then...
Harry Potter falls in love with Dobby.
There's fan art out there, trust me.
The weirdest one is, like, Harry and Draco. I'm like, wow.
No, the weirdest one is Hagrid in the Sorting Hat. Okay, so then Ela and Maklet have to go and rescue...
That must be a joke. Okay, sorry.
I have to go and rescue Macon and Angela, and somehow through their escape, Metis dies. Like, she sacrifices...
You get her out of the way.
She sacrifices herself for Macon. And so then that's the second book. So then the third
I probably
book,
would have cheered for that, maybe. Like,
the third book is the least fleshed out on the Margin and Lillian side. Like, I really only had Margin and Lillian side planned out. So then they make it to the Fire Mountains, and Lillian is able to destroy the ring. And it turns out that there's this giant battle below them. And so then they're like, okay, let's go, like, join this battle.
Who's fighting this battle?
Men and orcs. Again, this is not fleshed out very well. I, like, never got past that. So then they go and they fight, and then Lillian, gets knocked out again.
I'm so glad you're explaining this to me and I don't have to read another 2 books.
And then she wakes up in, like, Gondor or something like it. I never actually decided. And she wakes up with this, like, terrible scar all the way down her left forearm, and, like, her hair gets cut off. Like, it got...
Oh no, her personality trait!
It got
She's
soaked.
got nothing now.
She's
basically like Rapunzel afterward.
My explanation was, like, it got soaked in orc blood, and orc blood can't be washed out, so they just had to, like, cut her hair off. I don't think that's canon.
I mean, I don't know. I don't
And
think
then-
anyone's gone around using orc blood
And
as
then
shampoo.
Martin proposes to Lillian. She says yes.
No.
They go back to the Shire and they get married.
Aw.
And that's the end of the trilogy. Because then...
What happened with the other two?
I see, again, I didn't, like, flesh it out.
Didn't you say they were gonna get, like, in love, fall in love?
No.
Oh. I
Oh,
thought they were. I thought that's how your brain worked.
I know, seriously. This is just, we'll just pair each other up. Well, then that means Elon and Mark.
You know.
That's a little creepy. So then there was a... So then I had a spin-off
Oh my god.
idea about
No, you were
Lillian's daughter, who, guess what her name is?
Frodo.
No.
Sam.
No. Makaleta. So she loves to run. She's like this racer girl. And then it turns out
She
that...
meets a horse.
So,
And they fall desperately in love. I don't know.
so,
What would happen with her?
so it's her daughter. And, Lillian is pregnant. And she, like, discovers that she's still being, like, possessed by Aslan. Like, Aslan wasn't actually killed or anything.
Also, everything else is also useless in this one.
Yeah, so she's, like, having existential crises because, like, she's a danger to her family and all that jazz. And then Makaleta gets kidnapped by Aslan. He's like,
And they fall in love.
Lillian ruined my destiny. I'm gonna use you to get to her. And then, oh shoot, what happens?
They fall in love.
No.
Come on,
What happens?
all needs to be so serious.
So Lillian, like, then, like, has a baby, and then she, like, goes to
It's
kill...
the Antichrist.
And then Lillian goes to, like, kill herself, because it's, like... I know.
Are you going to an emo phase? Are you okay?
She goes to kill herself because it's, like, I'm a danger to my family, I'm better off dead. But then before she can do that, she hears Makaleta calling to her, and then, like, steps outside into the rain in, like, this dramatic scene where it's like, I'm gonna kill your daughter if you don't submit to me. And then she's like, okay, fine. And then you're like, how did this go? Why is this so clear in my head? So then he, like, possesses Lillian, and then he dies somehow, but I can't remember how.
Probably a sword. Margin comes out. And he's actually brought the matches. He just goes, wait!
That's so funny. No, he dies somehow. Maybe, like...
Margin?
No, Aslan. Maybe, like, Lillian is able to shake off his power or something
that's
like that.
Okay, here's...
And then you fast forward a couple of years, and Lillian goes to the Grey Havens, because Frodo went to the Grey Havens, and history's repeating.
Yep. Okay,
So that's how that ends.
here's the thing. I feel like this story would not have been, like, too terrible. Like, it still would have been horrendous. Like, it just has no structure, it has nothing. But it would have been considerably better if it was not Lord of the Rings, if it was not, like, a fan fiction, if, like, Frodo wasn't even involved, if, like, maybe you, like, did more on the characters would be great. Like, but, you know, Lillian is only, like, in charge because her grandparents were special or something. It would have been a lot cooler if Margin was the main character. So many things, like, it had potential. Like, a lot of the ideas, I have a lot of the things I've written, like, halfway through and then given up on. Like, they're terrible, but, you know, the idea is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So,
if you just took out, like, all of it, it
in
would be
the
great.
end, this was a terrible idea.
I had fun.
Yeah, fun? Fun? Was this entertaining? Was this interesting?
Happy
you
editing.
gotta look into my 14-year-old psyche, at least.
I mean, I had to start literally drawing those dumb, bad pictures so that I could get through this. And then there was that one day where I was eating cupcakes the whole time. Was that last time?
Yeah.
I needed that. I needed that more support.
Again, like and subscribe if this is your sort of thing. I don't know if I'll be doing things like this in the future, especially since
We're not reading my stuff.
I'm moving back to Kansas City.
I'll read my goose thing live.
So, yeah, this was fun.
Yeah. Hopefully you're...
Love you guys. Thank you for sitting
We do.
through this dumpster fire with us. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.
That's so also weird. Where did that come from?
I don't know. What? We're filming a video.
Going through torture.
Oh my gosh!
Whoa!
You have no teeth!
Where did it
Where'd
go?
they go?
I liked that one.
Okay, bye. I guess you're getting another tooth fairy visit. How did it fall out? Did you pull it out?
Yeah, Mom did.
Nice.
Or like if Lillian actually died, like I said, and then Margie.
And then the camera fell.
That would be outtake.